Welcome to Universal Truth of Mankind. I am Dave, your host, and this is Kabbalah 101. Thank you, everybody, for kind words. Thank you for helping me out. Keep liking, keep subscribing, keep sharing. All right. So I wanted to share something with you. I've been wanting to do this for a while. Um, and the reason I haven't is because I I feel this is the right time to do it. I wanted to wait for the right time and to share this with you. In this world, we have a dichotomy. We think in terms of left and right. Duality, yes and no. Two states. But I wanted to share one that is not often discussed, and that is Jew and Gentile. Now, we sit back and say, okay, what's a Jew? Oh, he's a descendant of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Okay, that's fine. I can accept that. And some would say, well, if you're not, then you're a Gentile. We have a little bit of an issue with that. Why? Because the reality is the Jewish people have existed for so long that in reality, a good portion of this planet is probably a mutt, probably somehow has some Jewish blood in them. So how do we do this? How do we separate the two now? Well, maybe we shouldn't. Now, let me step back one more to give more clarity to this, one more step to give more clarity. The whole idea of Jewish people didn't really exist until Nebuchadnezzar. Nebuchadnezzar conquered the southern kingdom. Assyria conquered the northern kingdom. And those people he ended up calling Jews, Judeans. Well, the Judean area, Judea, was really run by Yehuda. What about the other tribes? Well, take Benjamin, for instance. Benjamin was split. There were some in the southern kingdom, some in the northern kingdom. Although the territory itself really was in the southern kingdom. Simeon exists within Judah, but they kind of got absorbed. It's almost like they lost their identity. The northern kingdoms, like Dan, Naphtali, and so on and so forth, those 10 tribes were taken away. Some of them did migrate down to the Judean area. So yes, there is a mutt there of tribes. In terms of tribes, there's a mutt. But let's step back another step so you can see there's a lot of mixture there. So let's step back another step. Let's look at King David. Halakhically speaking, in order for a Jew to be a Jew today without converting, has to have three mothers. I had three mothers. In other words, my mother, my grandmother, my great-grandmother. So, and I can prove it. I have the paperwork. I have my papers. Like that really matters. King David, Rahab, was she a halakhic Jew? No. Ruth, halakhic Jew? No. He was a mixture of Gentiles as well. And yet he was held in high regard, and God highly favored him. So when we talk about Jew and Gentile, this is the way I view it. It's hereditary, physically hereditary. In other words, do you have the genes of fellow Jews, meaning from any of the tribes? And remember, the northern tribes were scattered all over. Where did they go? Well, there is some idea of where they all went. They've been scattered around. And I want to tell you something. It's very interesting that some of the American Indian tribes have practices that are very similar to Israel, meaning the northern southern kingdoms. The practices, religious practices, the spiritual practices are very similar to the Jewish practices in many cases. So are they descendants or were they influenced? If you go to New Mexico, there's a place called Los Lunas. Los Lunas has been found and confirmed to have been an Israelite colony back all the way to the 2nd century BCE. Look it up. We don't talk about it. They had something called the Mezuzah stones, which was believed to be the entrance from a port. There used to be an inland lake way back then. There isn't now. It was 2,000 years ago. So who are the Jews? Who are the Gentiles? It's very difficult. So we had to come up with a different litmus test because it's not just physical. To focus on the physical is a mistake. So now we had to move up and start looking at ourselves at higher levels and start looking at ourselves from a metaphysical point of view. There's a soul called neshama. Sometimes it's called the Jewish soul, meaning if you heed it, you listen to it, then you have a Jewish soul. This is the soul of Israel. So no longer doesn't matter if you're physical, you become literally part of spiritual Israel. And that's what our ultimate aim is. So if a Gentile comes to me, wants to know anything, I tell him what it is. I don't make a presumption they're not Jews. I explained to him, I said, I don't know what you are. Sometimes you can tell by talking to the person, you can tell how they think. I've met people, I said, I know you are. I met give you an example. I met one person about 3 years ago. And he says, oh, I had these ideas, blah, 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 blah. And I said, that's because you're Jewish. He says, well, no, I'm not. I said, yes, you are. Do your research. 2 years later, he found where his grandparents were buried. Jewish cemetery. He learned that his family escaped the Nazis, but they never told him. They kept it hidden. He told me about it. I said, that's very common for people like that because they're trying to protect you from future persecution. And I was correct. I'm not always right. Don't get me wrong. But in this case, this is one of those cases where it's obvious. So who is a Jew? Who's a Gentile? I don't consider that important anymore, at least not at the physical level. I'm more concerned with people at this level, the neshama. All right, I hope that helps. I hope that helps you to better understand this picture. We have to think at a higher level. It has nothing to do with DNA. Okay? So understand that. Forget halakha. That's physical. The whole purpose of the three mothers was because when the Crusaders came into Israel or into the land of Palestine, they came and they raped a lot of the Jewish women. And they said, well, what is this person? And rabbis got together and said, well, physically, when someone gives birth, we can't guarantee that the father is the father, but we can guarantee the mother's the mother. And that's when they came up with the tree mother idea. Take care, everybody. Have a great day. And thank you so much for your support.